Today, we're going to be going over more interval extrema. So we have this function, 2 minus x, and all of that is squared on the interval from 0 to 4. So you're going to find the critical points and then find the minimum and maximum on the interval. And just so you know, there can be more than one minimum, or there can also be more than one maximum on the interval. And also remember to check the endpoints of the interval when you're trying to find the maximum and minimum. So please pause the video and go through the steps carefully, and then try this out on your own. All right, so what's the first thing that you do? You're going to find your critical points, and how do you do that? You're going to take your derivative, take the derivative of the function, and then see where that function is equal to 0. So we do that, and we get, let's see, we'll expand this expression here. And so then we get this, and then we take the derivative, and then we find out where the derivative is equal to 0. So if you plug in 2 for x, you're going to get 0. So the derivative is 0 when x is equal to 2. And then to find out if if 2 is a maximum or a minimum, you're going to use the second derivative test. And remember, warning, if your second derivative turns out to be equal to 0, then the test is inconclusive. So we take the second derivative, and then we get just 2. And because 2 is positive, this means that when x is equal to 2, we'll have a minimum. However, we're not done yet. We also need to check the endpoints. So let's see. Well, first of all, we'll test out our critical number 2, and we get a y value of 0. And then we're going to test the endpoints of the interval. So we're going to test it, x equals 0, and then we're also going to try out x equals 4. And so when we sub in 0 into the original function, and when you sub in 4 into the original function, you get they're both 4. So we know that f of 2 is a minimum, and we also know that we have 2 maximums. One at x equals 0, and the other at x equals 4. So yeah, and we can tell that this is a maximum because both of these numbers, we can tell that both of them are maximums because both of them are greater than what we got when we plugged in the critical number. So if, for example, let's just say hypothetically that these were both less than our critical number. So if, let's say both of these were, let's just say hypothetically they were -5, then they would both be minimums. And let's say that one was -5 and the other one was 10. So then we would know that the -5 would be a minimum because it's one of the endpoints and it's less than all our critical numbers. And if we had got a y value of 10 over here, we would get that would be our maximum. So I'll repeat this again if that's confusing. So if your endpoint number happens to give you a y value that's lower than all the x values, let me say this again. If it gets you a value that's lower than the values of all your critical numbers, then the endpoint will be your minimum. And if your endpoint happens to be greater than, it happens to have a greater y value than all your critical numbers, then that would be a maximum. And so I hope that helped you a little bit. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you back soon.